with so many things going on in the gaming world, I know there are a few people that are still stuck, like, with their excuses on Windows, and I'm sure they've probably seen all the arguments about, like, why, like, they don't have to stick with Windows and this, that, and the other. But I'm here back to rehash it again. And this time I am just, like, showing basically most of the applications that are available on both Linux and Windows, or that are very similar to those that we already have otherwise, that they normies would normally use. So kind of the first thing that most would think of are web browsers. So Google Chrome, being the most popular web browser there is, of course, does have a Linux counterpart. And you can easily install it from, like, any Linux distro pretty much. All you have to do is, like, go into your terminal and you're literally going, like, and you search for Google Chrome, and it usually comes up. Not everyone has it, but you'll usually find it. Oh, what you're usually finding on most Linux distros, though, is actually Chromium, which is Google Chrome without the Google branding, and with a few less of the Chrome few less of the Chrome, Google's cruft in it. So you can definitely find Chromium in every one of them, and a lot of distros, like with a graphical environment, have this installed by default. So you'll have, where is it? It's in here somewhere. You've got ungoogled Chromium in here, and that's a game. I guess not every one of them has it anymore, but ungoogled Chromium you'll find is another really popular one, and it's just Chromium with, like, all of the Google stuff removed. Now, if you're one of those that are far removed and use your default browser and everything, they do have Microsoft Edge if you're willing to install it, but you're probably going to go with the default, which is going to be some Chromium thing. But if there are a couple of places that do have Microsoft Edge that you can install into it. So even though the Edge site says Linux is not available, there are some places where you can find it. If we can find it in here, somewhere in here. In here somewhere. Somewhere in the AUR. Okay, there it is. Microsoft Edge dev bin. So, yeah, you can still install Microsoft Edge onto your thing, but I highly doubt you're going to do that since Edge is default and you're using the default browser. And if you're one of those few on Windows that still uses Firefox, this also shows up as a default in many a Linux distro, is Firefox. So it's on Linux. I mean, it's really easy to set up. All you do is you go way over. And obviously it's got, like, all kinds of Firefox stuff in here already. So it's got, like, every package, but if you are, for your system, all you really have to do is just go install the Firefox package, and you don't have to think about all this extra stuff. You just install the Firefox, whatever that is for you, and it'll install it. And there are other forks of Firefox that do show up, like LibreWolf, Fire Dragon, and so on. So you'll see some of those, or the ESR one, the extended support release of Firefox. So Firefox, for those of you that are still on it, that still like it, It's in the repos. I mean, if you've seen any Linux YouTubers, and they've probably been running Firefox or Brave. I mean, even Brave is on Linux. So, and that's another Chromium fork. If we go and actually, yeah, see, Brave, bin. It'll be in a number of repos, otherwise, depending on your distros. Otherwise, you have to install it like otherwise, and usually the directions are pretty easy. So your web browsers are pretty fleshed out. You've got a whole bunch of web browsers that you can try out otherwise too. I've shown some of those off as well. So, and if you use Vivaldi, then that's also on it too. So Linux has like your web browser like full set out in everything. So you don't even have to think about that. Now, the hard part for some people is not so much the web browser, but maybe it might be Office software. So, literally, there is no shortage of Office software in reality. So if you've used LibreOffice, it's on Linux. You don't have to think about it. You just install the LibreOffice package for whatever distro you're on, and it's there. If you want something that's more like Microsoft Office, then WPS Office is going to be your closest. It's been updated a little bit since I've used it forever ago. And apparently they have this all-in-one thing where you can like tab your different documents. But that'll be more like Microsoft Office. But LibreOffice is still pretty easy to use. I mean, I use this through doing online classes for computer basic stuff and doing word processing and I was able to figure out like the equivalent of it pretty simply of what I needed to do. So, and LibreOffice supports all of the docx and everything else that everybody requires, and it lets you edit. Hey, Steam, go away. No. That's for like 2 seconds, okay? Go away. And it lets you edit PDFs as well as signed PDFs as well. So if you have like digital signatures, LibreOffice does support like digital signatures and that whatnot too. But if you want something that runs a little bit lighter that can run on things, you're looking at Abbey Word for your word processing and Numeric for your spreadsheet stuff, which is probably what most people are looking at, is being able to do word processing and spreadsheets. And these ones still support like the wide variety of documents that you could have. So if like in Abbey Word here, I could go save as, and you can see that we've got the Abbey Word, and then Microsoft.doc, RTF, HTML, TXT. It doesn't have the newer document stuff, but you can still export it as a PDF. So you can save as a PDF. I don't think Abbey Word can edit a PDF, but then Numeric is kind of the same way. It's like your basic spreadsheet program. It does support like a Python and a couple other things that like Microsoft Office doesn't. But if we go into Save As again, you've got the Numeric, XML, and no, it doesn't do the newer formats, but it does do XPS and the open document stuff. So these ones are really light. They come up really quickly, and they support most of the documents that most people still require. So again, word processing is not out of the way. And so just like it spoiled in 2 seconds ago, is if you're looking for gaming, Valve has been supporting Linux pretty hard recently. And with Proton, it basically gives little excuse for not switching over if like you're hinge point is gaming, because with the number of different versions of Proton, you can usually find something or tweak something to fit your needs. And I've got a number of Windows games that I've actually been running just fine, and Halo runs just fine. It's just the anti-cheat that's the issue right now. And with Battlenet and Easy Anti-Cheat supporting Proton and Wine now, it just makes it that much less of an excuse that, like, your games will pretty much work on it. And Valve is always working on improving compatibility with Proton in their whole library. But not everyone has just Steam games. Sometimes maybe you have like those good old games, those GOG games, GOG games, and that's where Mini Galaxy comes in. Mini Galaxy is basically like a front end for your GOG games that lets you install and run the games just fine. I covered this in a video previously, but it does do Wine. They are updating stuff, and those DOS games that use a Linux native DOS box, you can set up to use your system installed DOS box version. They are working on getting those DOS games that have a Windows version of DOSBox with it to run the Linux native DOSBox version, and that's still in the works, but it's pretty decent for what it does. So you can see you've got your whole game description and everything when you look at the properties. And if I were to go into something like this is World of Goo is a native game. And so it comes up, you can go to the store page, support, open the folder it's in, you can set your flags and stuff. I've covered it before. And if I pick a Wine game, properties, you can see it gives you the option to configure the Wine config and then the regedit if it's a Wine prefixed one. So it'll set up a Wine prefix using the native Wine that you have installed. And then if your thing has DLC in it, you can go through and do the DLC stuff that way. And we can look at the properties again, and it just shows you the basic info, and you can see I've got the flag here running. So Mini Galaxy for your GOG games, but even then, it's not just GOG. Sometimes you've got other games, and lutetrus handles that pretty well. So what lutetrus lets you do is you can manually like set up a game to run. So if I go into my Wine stuff, I've got Dark Souls Prepare to Die Edition with Blood Gulch mod installed. And this is one where I basically had in essence, a cracked files in a folder, and I set up a whole new Wine prefix and things with it. And basically it runs the game straight up using the FS hack. And so I basically set the directories manually, but for the most part, you're going to be able to go in through... No, stupid. You can go in through lutetrus. You can find the installers by searching games in here, search for community installers, and then search for a term, or you can search the website and do it that way. And it's got a good number of games that have scripts set up for it already. You can see they've got these are some of the newer ones. So if you come to the site, it'll show you new stuff and then like stuff that were recently updated. So not only does it manage Wine games and like Linux native games, but it can manage Doom prefixes as well, so you can run Chex Quest in ZDoom or what have you through lutetrus. And you can run emulators through it as well. So it does ROMs and the whole bunch of stuff. You will have to give it ROMs for like legality reasons, but if we go into the preferences, if we go into services, you can see that we can go, it'll scan through our local stuff. So if I turn that on, it'll look for whatever's locally on the machine. We can add Epic Games Store integration and things like that, Steam Windows, which I think Proton covers for the most part now. But you can connect your different stuff to it, so you can log into GOG in lutetrus, and it'll sync your games to it, as well as among other things. And you can set up your runners in here too. So this is where you can set up your emulators, your wine prefixes. If we come into wine, what lutetrus has is a whole bunch of tools. I think I've covered, yes, I'm pretty sure I've covered it. So if we look at wine here, for example, you can see that we can go through and download different versions of wine that come with it, that are packaged with lutetrus. And yeah. So you can explore and search through the lutetrus libraries and find what you can. But other than that, it's just like a whole suite of stuff that, like, gaming has really no excuse. And given that Steam works pretty well, most people are worried about Steam not working because that's where all their games are. And it pretty much works. In fact, actually, let's go back to lutetrus. So if you're one of those people that has like Battlenet games, I'll go into wine here. And I've actually got StarCraft. This has worked before. Aw, dang it. Give me a second. Okay. So all I needed to do was disable eSync, so that's all it complained about. But you can see Battlenet Launcher comes up, and I can actually... So it runs pretty well. Occasionally it has updates, so I have to open it up on occasion to update the launcher, which is annoying unto itself. But I can sit here, if I launch it, and look, it runs StarCraft. Maybe. See? Look. There we go. So yeah, StarCraft runs. We can go in here. We can hit OK. We can play custom. We can... I don't have my downloaded maps otherwise. I need to copy over those maps. But, let's pick... Protoss. So you can see that I can still run like a good number of games, and it still runs like full speed. So it's, and so yeah, we can sit here and stare at stuff. And see, it looks really, really good still, and runs really, really well. So, I mean, it's not like you're gonna be lacking. And let's see. End mission, quit mission, quit mission. Then if we go into multiplayer, expansion, cancel, okay, Battlenet, okay. So yeah, we can still connect to Battlenet still even. So if you've wanted to play StarCraft and that's your thing, you can still play it. I mean, just fine. So, and this is, I believe, actually running on my laptop GPU, the 1050, so it still runs just fine. But yeah, if you have one of those friends that just can't leave Windows, or you're one of those people and you just didn't have the right tools to do it, let me know, like, any other concerns that you might have, and I can probably, like, cover those excuses as to why, like, someone won't switch. If you've come across something different that I didn't go over, then I know there's, like, plenty of stuff that keep people from switching. And, I mean, you can't force anyone to, but yeah. But yeah, if you found this helpful, informative, or things like that, then let me know. Give the like, feed the algorithm. It really helps boost my metrics when you do. And I'll see you in the next one.